Variation listings are useful when an item can be purchased with different options, like color, size, or material. Rather than forcing buyers to look through multiple listings for the correct size, color, or material, a single listing is displayed. In order to create a variation item, you will first need to create a new item with the Add button in the ribbon bar of Sell Items mode. I'll be using different colored dice as an example product. Enter a title and check the This Item Has Variations box in the Identifiers tab. This will open the Select Variations window. From this window, you can choose to manually enter variation information, to create a new variation set using the New Variation Set button, or to select an existing variation set. First, we'll take a look at manually entering your variation information. Click OK to open the Manage Variations window. Select the site that you wish to base the variation set's values on at the top of the Manage Variations window. I'll be using the eBay variation set in this example. If you list on multiple sites with variations, you will want to verify that all of the site checkboxes are checked for that variation set. Select a category that this variation set belongs to. This will populate the variation values table with the site's custom variation values. In this case, I'll be using the Toys and Hobbies, Games, Games Pieces Parts category. To add a value from the variation values table, double-click it to move it into the name field of the Manage Variations window. Below the name box, the values from the eBay custom variation values will appear. If the variation values that you wish to use are not present in the recommended values, you will need to manually enter them. These custom values are referred to as user-defined values. To add custom values, click the Manage Site Custom Values button above the Variation Values box. This will open the Manage Item Specifics window set to the category that was selected in the Manage Variations window. Click the New button, then enter a name for the new item specifics. Once the name has been entered, the user-defined values will appear on the right side of the window. Add the values you wish to include by typing in the top line of the user-defined values box, then pressing Enter. Continue this process with the next empty line until you have entered all of the values. If you have already used a similar or identical set of values in another category, you can retrieve those values by using the Retrieve Values button. Click OK to finalize this set. The set will appear in the blue For This Category section of the Variation Values box, and can be added as a variation with a double click. Some variation items may have multiple variations, such as color and size. When an item is using multiple variations, you must set one of the variations as the picture variation. The picture variation is the variation that all images on the selling site will change with when it is changed. When managing your variations, check the bubble in the picture variation column of the name box to set the picture variation. Use the SKU builder to customize how the SKU will be generated for your variation set. The SKU builder will allow you to set custom prefixes and suffixes, with the default prefix being set to item ID. The SKU builder also allows you to include the variations in the SKU with a label and length of your choosing. Additionally, you can add separators to your SKU to organize it the way that works best for your business. You can add variations to your variation item by checking the box next to each value. Use the checkbox at the top of the Value Selection box to select or deselect all values. Once a variation has been saved in your variation set, it cannot be removed. When you are satisfied with the variation values that you've chosen for your item, click Save and Exit to apply the variations to your item. When creating a variation item, instead of using the manual option, you can opt to create a new variation set by clicking the New Variation Set icon. Create the new variation set as you would a manual variation item. Once a variation set has been saved, it can be selected from the drop-down when creating variation items. The item window should now contain the Variations tab that includes all of the newly created variations for this item. Many of the columns in the Variations tab are editable directly from the grid. This includes the SKU, product ID, prices, and more. Click on a value to edit it, and press Enter to apply it. We'll use the eBay fixed price as an example, setting the price for the first variation to $5. If your item has many variations to choose from, entering all of this information manually could take up a lot of time. With batch changes, you can update all of the variations at once as long as they will be using the same value. Select the variations that you wish to change. Ctrl+A will select all of them. Right-click and select Batch Change Variations. Use the checkboxes on the left to select the field that you want to change. We'll continue using the eBay fixed price field. Select an option from the drop-down box. In this case, we will use change to in order to set the price at a specific price. Enter the value that you want the variations to have, and then click OK to apply the changes to your variation items. Sticking with $5 here, all the variations have changed their eBay fixed price to $5. Adding images for each variation is important for creating a successful listing. Sort the variations by the picture variation that was chosen during the creation of the variation set. Select the first variation in the list, then use the Add Pictures button on the right side of the Variation tab to upload images for the selected variation. Repeat this process for each unique picture variation. You can also edit, delete, manage, and browse through images for the variation from this sidebar. Variation items will always list all of the available inventory in SixBit. If a variation has 0 inventory, it will not be listed. As the amount of inventory in SixBit changes, the quantity available on the site will automatically be updated by the agent once every minute. You can add stock to variations by selecting the variations in the grid, right-clicking on them, and selecting Add Stock. Additionally, you can manage inventory for variations by selecting the Manage Inventory option in the right-click menu. If you are subscribed to an Enterprise edition of SixBit, you can specify a scarcity level for each variation to give the buyers the impression that there are not a lot available. If the inventory for a variation hits 0 while it is an active listing, SixBit will automatically disable that variation. SixBit also allows you to manually activate or deactivate variations. Select the variations from the grid, right-click, and select the Deactivate Selected option to disable those variations, or the Activate Selected option to enable those variations. Changing the grid view allows you to specify whether all variations appear, only the active variations appear, or only inactive variations appear. Right-click in the grid, select View, then set the view to All, Active, or Inactive. The Variation in Use box will be checked in the grid if a variation is active, and unchecked if a variation is inactive. If the need arises to add more variations to an item, you can modify the variation set by right-clicking in the grid and selecting Modify Variation Set Definition. It is important to note that the maximum number of variations an item can have is 250. The right-click menu of the variation grid also gives access to some manual functions of variations. These include retrieving catalog data by product ID, regenerating SKUs, printing the inventory label, and creating over-the-counter sales. Variations can be removed from items by selecting the Remove Variations option from the right-click menu.